Hello and welcome to this new episode of The Moment podcast. Today I'm here with Flor, Lin, and Raine. Maybe some others will still join later. And we're going to talk about the Cosmic Man. So something that I can say about the Cosmic Man is that the Cosmic Man is something from that kind of is in the collective unconscious on a deeper layer, and within the individual you also then have the self, and these two are linked to each other. The self being the Jungian idea of the self, and that's what I wanted to take it away with, and create some space for others to chime in now.
Yeah, so the self in the Jungian sense is like the center, the guiding center, but also like the entirety of the psyche of the individual. But also you can think of it like as a collective self as well, like all these individual selves combined, and all that together forms like a symbol of wholeness. Or you can have it like as individual one as well, like in the psyche of one person. And in that case, these symbols come in dreams and show up for people, for instance. And different symbols then for this cosmic man, which is like the myth of the where everything comes from, this one big wholeness. But then like that we are all part of, and like kind of children of. And then this is difficult to explain, but I'm gonna do my best. So this wholeness consists of both like the conscious and unconscious side. And the unconscious side is like the parts that we are not aware of, and that also is parts of the self. For women, it appears in dreams as a priestess, a witch, earth mother, or goddess of nature or love, or a fairy godmother. And for men, an initiator, teacher, protector, guru, wise old man. Think Merlin or Hermes, or spirits of nature as well for them.
So that would kind of be like the highest evolutions of the anima and animus then?
Well, yeah, they represent the self. They are not the self itself, but they represent it. They bring messages from it. In that sense, in the dreams.
I don't know. It makes me also kind of think about like the Taoist like perspective of like that the Tao that can be named or like that can be seen is not actually the Tao itself. Like all these different figures are representing it, but it's not actually it. Similarly with like the Cosmic Man, we had like yesterday, like in the server, like also the talk and something that came up because of like Anastasios, what he had said regarding like Ymir and like Yemo and these different figures kind of came to I don't know, like I came to the realization like that the giant at the beginning, which is the kind of like a symbol of the Cosmic Man, at the same time you have like this one splitting it into two, and the two coming together forming the third, and then it's like it's like a coming together again and then going back towards the cosmic man. So it's like everything like comes from it, but everything returns to it as well, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that reminds me like of that in the self archetype, it's really like where a lot of opposites come together and join a whole again. It's the union of opposites.
See, so the self would be like the very individual, would be linked to the individual, and the cosmic man would kind of be more linked to the collective self then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I understood it from the book we were reading in book club. Man and His Symbols from Jung and his associates that they wrote, and it was talking about these things as well in there, about the psyche and the different symbols, how the subconscious mind is speaking to us through these symbols.
Also, good evening to all.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. A fun fact is that Ymir procreated, creating the first Jotungs, Jotnar, by touching his two legs, like he could procreate on his own. And he is described as being dual in nature, like from the beginning, forming the clouds by his sweat, and the first cow, and so on, and the first pair of giants, male and female. The mother of Odin, let's not forget that she is a giant, second generation after Ymir.
Yeah, so he was kind of like this wholeness at the beginning, and then from him was born the opposites. And then when the opposites come back together again, they form the third, which is like then again a synthesis of the opposites, like union of opposites kind of figure, which we can see like in these symbols that I said that can come up in dreams. But also like is seen in Christ, in Krishna, in Buddha, in the divine child, and the divine couple when they come together and form a whole in a way.
Yeah, it's like Holy Trinity kind of concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. The cosmic man in that sense also makes me think of like McKenna's oversoul and these kind of like ideas, and that kind of gets into like some of it, I guess, into like the UFO territory as well. But you know, we can go into on the UFO pod more, but it kind of ties into with that too, and the two coming together, forming the third is again like how you had like said, Raine, also about like the Trito figure, and it seems to be like a main thing regarding that. And there's also something from what I've read is that by looking into some stuff regarding the course that I've been making, that a lot of these like figures originally were also vegetation figures, so, and the green man is often also linked with like the cosmic man and such kind of figures as well. So but then there's like, you know, a special tree normally like associated with like the green man or like these kind of figures. One it's the holly and the oak, for instance, are two of the trees that are pretty sacred to such figures. And the oak tree is again like associated with the thunder gods as well, so it kind of links all of these things together in a way. but then the vegetation stuff links also to like the mother goddess as well. So you can again see like how these things come together.
Yeah, like the cosmic man himself, it's all the good and regenerative things, but it can also be like the tremendous destructive powers in the world and universe too. And then with Trito, it's more seems like, the sun, the more human aspects you see in like Thor or Jesus, where they're like culture heroes, unite people and kind of like direct things towards, a stable and kind society, more so than some of the aspects of like the All Father or the Cosmic Man. It's more human.
Interesting point too.
But also something that I've started to like realize is that the Cosmic Man kind of like, in some sense, when the because I've been looking into like the Cosmic Man in like more like the Eastern, like Asian, like Buddhist and like shamanic realms as well, and in those like mythologies, it also ties into like the concept of wind horse, and like that the wind horse or the breath, how it's also kind of like linked to, connects the human and the kind of all of life to the Cosmic Man, and kind of forms this bridge, and like it's kind of seen as like that the breath kind of like is that what has been given by the Cosmic Man, but it also returns to it, and it's the life force. Same with like the wind horse, it's the life force that like connects everything together. And I don't know, like when thinking about that too, it made me think of like I don't know, like there's a lot of like associations with like the wind horse in of itself, again with different figures, like think like Odin with his horse as well, and the wind horse is like riding through the different realms and allows like the hero figure or some figure to access the different realms. Same with like Odin and stuff, and he gives the life breath, and there's a lot of like links to that. And it seems to be a universal theme almost regarding life breath and the Cosmic Man as well.
Yeah. And also that reminded me about like that the Cosmic Man or the self really is not bound by time, that and or space really, because he's everything. Then he's kind of young and old at the same time then.
Yeah, and with Odin, it's interesting. You see with his horse, Sleipnir, probably butchering that name, but there's always like it's one horse, but it has like 6 to 8 legs, so it's got enough legs for 2 horses, And then when you see Thor on his chariot, he's got 2 goats, and the divine twin is usually a chariot pulled by like 2 horses. So again, you see the theme of like, coupling the conscious and unconscious and making them work together for one path.
Yeah. Yes, and also the self is also connected then to the numbers 4, 8, and 16, like these fourfold numbers also because of the 4 directions, the 4 winds, so to speak, like connecting it to the wind horse.
Also, it is interesting that Odin means the ecstatic one, like the one who is in trance. And to reach this state, he hung himself with a spear on his stomach, being on a tree for 9 days, 9 nights, without being given food or drink by anyone. And then he had an upset breakdown. In a sense, he started shouting and he fell down, and he looked up and he acquired the runes. He took the runes. So in a sense, Odin symbolizes also like a person who tries to attain the state of the cosmic man.
Yeah, he like pulled something out of it and came up with the runes, or beheld them and was able to bring it down to man to use.
Yeah, and Odin, in that sense, he's like a shamanic figure, and like the original shamans were women. So in a way, in him, there's like this coming together of opposite in that sense too, like of masculine and feminine in one figure.
In a way, yes, because like the magic that he used, the cider magic, was associated with women, and there is something regarding like Odin using it, making him unmanly or something along these lines. But if you look at it from like a Jungian lens, you can see like how there's both the masculine and feminine sides coming together. Plus, I mean, he didn't really seem to care for anything other than knowledge and wisdom, and to gain it and by whatever means. So he wasn't that picky of a, I guess, god.
Also, like with the, I wanted to still say about like the 4 directions. That makes me think of the mandala, which is like one symbol also associated with the cosmic man, the self. In Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism.
Yeah, they
and
also use the. Go ahead, Lin.
no, you go ahead. That's okay.
All right. I think it probably comes from Tibetan, but you see it in Catholicism too. The 108 mala beads, where they have the necklace with the 108 on it. It's divisible by 4 for one, and also it is supposed to symbolize like spiritual completeness. So when they're like meditating or thinking, they run the beads through their hands, or you'll notice on a lot of those qigong videos, he will do things in sequences of like 4, 8, 16, 32. On some of the videos, he'll even make you do the same thing like 108 times.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. Yeah.
Somehow that wound up in Catholicism with the rosary beads.
Yeah, and in the mandala, it also comes together like the square and the circle, which also represents like the opposites of matter and spirit. Bringing that
and then
also
again with air, and breathing, that would be our earthly bodies, and breathing the air. So there's the polar opposites there too.
Yeah, and then the center of the mandala, from what I've seen also, that like both the wind horse, but also the Kiran or Killian, similarly are also both like figures that are at the center of it, and then there's 4 animals in the different corners tied to the different directions as well. And then it is said like that the Kiran or the Killian and the wind horse are like in that sense connected to the soul, and so the self, and also the cosmic man. And from what I know with the Kiran and the Killian, which is kind of a similar figure, one from Japan and another from China, that it seems to like appear when someone is actually being virtuous in an actual sense, and is kind of like a messenger of the cosmic man in that sense. Similarly, how the wind horse connects one to it as well.
Really, all these different symbols of wholeness of the self appear at crucial times of change in people's lives a lot. That's like really when they seem to appear.
And that kind of makes me think of like the similarly like with like the thunder gods and like the Quirinus dude also, like how it said like how he and those like kind of savior figures like show up at like these periods of transition when there's like a great need of something that, like, I guess the cosmic man sends someone, or like works through someone to bring forth a particular change. And that again like ties into like the UFO stuff too with as well.
There's another symbol too, or like you kind of brought it up too with the mentioning that in the mandala there can be animals in the 4 directions as well. It's like, I guess, bringing our awareness to the instinctual part of ourselves and to have that become more aware of it, I guess, and also bringing us into connection with our environment, because really that we see that, I guess, a bit more clearly with animals. Like if they don't have an habitat, then they're not there, they don't exist. So that brings us into the landscape in a way as well, like we are one with it. And also stones, especially like a round stone or crystals, are also symbols of this union of matter and spirit, because they are so mathematically somehow fascinating to us, that how could this have formed on its own?
Yeah, they seem to like house the, I guess, like Platonic forms or Platonic idea, like the pure Platonic geometric ideals or something like that, you know, like pure mathematics. And yet they seem to, you know, they attempt to form those things, but they come out a little skewed or a little bit different, but you can still see the essence that they were going for in their creation.
Yeah, it kind of symbolizes the eternal and unchanging core, or like, I guess, the cosmic man side of the self, like the unchanging, even though change is also part of it, but there are these like more eternal parts that it represents in a way, that the crystal.
I don't know, this made me just also think about like Raine, what you had posted about thunder gods and this like stone or this vault kind of thing that they're associated with as well.
Yeah, they're in the UFO stuff. A lot of people are like, while they're sitting there trying to comprehend it, it seems to come off as a stone to them. And then, like with all of, you know, like ancient weapons were all made out of stones too. So that is, you know, reminiscent of kind of King Arthur pulling the sword out of the stone, or, you know, Thor with his hammer, things like that. And again, with like the round table symbolism, you know, you're bringing all the pieces together, like collectively you're bringing all the knights together to try and balance each other out for the quest, you know. So it's balancing all those aspects of the collective self. And it does kind of tap into that Sangha idea that we were talking about too. And that was like an Eastern idea of community. And the getting together with and talking and bouncing ideas off of each other, kind of like dialectics. And that was kind of what the idea was, to get yourself out of the cave slowly and surely, closer to the self one step at a time. Although, it's a pure ideal that you can never really get to, but you can get closer to it. And in the cave,
Yeah.
every single layer that they got up, like, it was so bright that they had to let their eyes adjust to it. Just an interesting allegory there.
No, definitely. And I just wanted to add about the stone and King Arthur, that the stone was called the Stone of Fate originally. What it was tied to in like the Celtic mythology, and it was like one of the it was one of four symbols connected to a higher deity. And that particular stone would like shriek or make like a high-pitched sound when someone would be near the stone, that they were meant to be the king and the guardian of the land, in that sense, the protector of the land and the people. And with regarding to that, it's again like something like, the stone of faith. Faith is kind of like often associated with the kind of like the higher concepts connected to like the cosmic man as well. Kind of like this like a ma'at side of it. Like there's a particular faith that it seems to like I guess like be associated with. I could say it like that.
Yeah, I came across a Proto-Indo-European term. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but it was a term for the sky, denoted the heavenly vault of stone. So the sky being the vault of the stone. An interesting concept.
Is this the name of the stone that Arthur pulled out the sword?
The Stone of Fate. Yes, that's the original name of the stone in Celtic mythology. It had lost its name later on, but the name that it used to have is the Stone of Fate.
Oh, I see. Like the Proto-Indo-European, it is called the vault of the sky for
Yeah.
this. It reminds me a bit of burial mounds, in a sense, or pyramid, and also sky burials, like in Mongolia, like a try of human to surpass death and also bring, in a sense, earth on heaven and bring also down earth and pulling out of this ancestral power, in a sense.
Yeah, it kind of links this like linear time with the eternal. If we think of like that, they were buried there and then they wanted to remember them for a long time, so they put stones there to remember. Even though they had returned to the cosmic man, so to speak, to the essence outside of time.
I guess in some sense, like, yeah, you could say it like that, because if you look at like Mongolia, for instance, like a lot of the stuff from there connected to like the cosmic man and like the shamanic sense is also like, I guess maybe the sky burials are done so it can return to, or like in their or like, so that it can return in that way to the cosmic man, and I think a lot of it has to do with that, and or like symbolically, so it's like so that it can symbolically return. And same with like burial mounds. I don't know. There's a lot of, and the pyramids too. There's a lot of connected to that as well. Also with like what you had brought up in the Egypt talk that we had with like Horus and the pharaoh, how Horus goes up back into the sky to the heavenly source with the soul of the pharaoh, and it kind of like links to that kind of idea as well. Then I would think, Anastasios. I don't know. What do you think about that?
And it is exactly the same, like if you see in different kinds of apotheosis, like of different heroes, you see the eagle carrying the hero in a sense. And even in folklore of medieval Anatolia and Byzantine times, there are many instances of heroes dying in very extreme situations and taken up by an eagle to God. That it is not very close like to the Christian type of myth. And also in the sense of Valhall in Old Norse mythology, Valr, where the word Valor and Valorus comes from, it means the slain, but this word also means the hawk. And you have the sense like the dying of the hero, like the wild part of him, like passes to the sky, goes to the afterlife, but in a different afterlife. And Valhall can be the house, the hall of the slain, but it can also be the stone of eagles, like the plateau of the eagles. And this is very interesting concept. Also, Valkyries are described as feminine creatures. Sometimes some characters become Valkyries, and they are having bird-like characteristics, like bird-like eyes, talons, or feathers, and they look like swan. If I remember the correct Old Norse term, it is swanhammer, like swan-like.
Yeah, that's correct regarding the swans. And I've seen some art regarding that too, like how they were depicted with like on their arms that they had like almost like the wings of swans or swan feathers connected to it, or wings in some form.
Yeah, that reminds me of how we were talking about at some point, was it yesterday too, about how there are these different cultures have these representations of deities that have both like are associated with both the snake and the bird, and how like when those come together, it's again like that wholeness. Instead of fighting each other, when they come together in one character, then it kind of is again a symbol of the self in that sense, a messenger of that union or that wholeness.
Makes me then think about like Hermes too, who has that kind of symbolism. And I also, when digging into like Athena, there are some versions of the myth regarding her birth that that she came out and holding two snakes, but then she's also associated with the owl, so birth as well. And there's like these different figures. Thoth, I think, too, is associated with that kind of symbolism too, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not 100% sure. So don't hold me on that one. But there's also the Naga and the Garuda as well, regarding like the symbolism too. So you can see that in a lot of different cultures.
Maybe I can come back a bit to the topic of community. There was also in Man and His Symbols something mentioned about that sometimes it seems like that the self, so something that is partly for us subconscious, is kind of arranging things and bringing people together to form communities. And that reminds me of what you said about kind of like fate too. Like maybe some of it is like for a bigger plan or something, or so it would seem, or really feels like that a lot. That it's not just our conscious mind that is planning and doing things, that it's being guided from beyond, I guess. And then that also brings us to the topic of synchronicities, which is like meaningful, what seem to be non-causal coincidences that make us feel like there's like a something, like a link between the psyche and matter again. It's like how can this be? Like I was just thinking about this and now it's here, and things like that. So I would like to hear some more about that if someone has anything.
It just reminds me of like what Raine had as in his About Me for a while, about like Carl Jung and Here's Your Scarab, from the Man and His Symbols, I think it was from as well. It just made me think of that.
Yeah, it's one of the more well-known like Carl Jung stories. It's usually like the go-to one to describe synchronicity. He was talking with one of his patients, and she was having all these dreams as well as like a real life experience, like the thing she was going through at that time, and it was something to do with like a rebirth process. And I think they like had the window open, or it was sunny outside, or yeah, I think they had the window open, and whatever the closest native relative to the scarab in that area of Europe or Germany or wherever the hell he was at the time, like flew in from outside to try and get out of the light, and he picked it up and showed it to her and said, "Here's your scarab," which is an Egyptian symbol of rebirth.
So did she have that symbol in her dreams as well?
I believe
Before?
so, yeah. Yeah, I think so.
That's cool.
I'll try and dig up the story and post it. That idea of like fate and bringing people together, you can think on the individual level. Jung talks about individuation, right? It's something that we all unconsciously tend towards, like those gears are always turning, right? But he says you can consciously accelerate the process by being aware of these things, integrating the shadow and the anima and all that whole process. So if you expand that out to the collective, it makes sense how you are kind of able to spot and are attracted to other people that are consciously trying to do the same thing. You start to build the community,
Yeah, and what he also had said, from what I remember, is something about that one cannot fully individuate alone, that you need that community to do it. And it does make sense also, like with the Sangha tradition, is like that when there are other people who are wanting to be aware and do a mindful practice and life, then it will become easier for the other ones who want to do the same to come there to the same place and to do it together, and it will support that practice or like that intention. And even though we're like talking about these very kind of sort of generalized symbols of wholeness, of course they are in the individual psyche will come up as very individual, and always the relationship to the self is different for every person.
Yeah, no, that's true. It can, and it depends on like what is needed to be conveyed, how it might show up regarding the individual, and yeah, I don't know, the whole idea of like the community, like the Sangha kind of community, is also like makes me kind of like think of like, you know, again about like the round table and kind of like how the knights go off and but then, you know, like kind of go on their individual quest, but then also like come together again, and that's kind of what it is, and kind of what is it seems to be like an important part of that as well, to not have to like do it all on one's own or anything like that. That there is that space for it as well, and it does seem to me like that there's many practices that like different communities like that in different cultures do, that are like kind of also at the same time about like connecting to, I guess, the cosmic man, and kind of like that wholeness, what is symbolized in that as well, like in the, I guess, Eastern traditions, there's like mindfulness maybe in some sense, but the qigong as well, and I guess breath work, and has also like come up in different cultures as well, and different like such practices that like are there to do that. Same with the Taoists even. They did like kind of like shamanic kind of practices to like connect to the Tao, to like be able to like tune into that, I guess, frequency, or this kind of like this particular like way of being, and so they could then live like in connection with it, so like that it could work. They could like, I guess, follow the path and work with it, kind of, instead of trying to swim against the river kind of idea, against the flow of things, or not being aware that one is in a river of sorts, and creating like blockages in the river, or and any of such things. And it seems a lot to be about stuff like that as well.
Yeah, it's like about finding that harmony with all of what you are as an individual, and like all of what everything is, and finding your place in it, and playing your part, flowing it as that part of the river that you are. And that can first, before you get to that point, you will have to do shadow work, become aware of what you're not aware of about yourselves and the world, and after that you will slowly become more aware of the wholeness of everything, the bigger picture.
You know, and I don't know, a lot of this makes me then also think about like Heraclitus, Heraclitus too. Heraclitus, yes, I butchered his name there, but I corrected myself now. Good. As well regarding like, because yesterday Anastasios we were talking a bit about like logos and the original sense of the word, and it makes me think of that too, like to what you were mentioning about like intellect as well with the interlego.
Yes, like Heraclitus very much understand the world and the community as something being sublime and that wants to awaken and tends to awaken, but it is being sunk into the materiality of reality. Like everything, if it starts moving more and more and more, they tend to go towards a mindful fire. And there is constant movement also in the sense of Heraclitus. And the community is always the people that are awakened. They see one and a common world. And the people that are asleep, everyone dreams in his own world. But they are all the asleep people collaborators of the happenings and the adversity that happens in the world. Like, in a sense, what Maya is, I think, in Hindu mythology.
Do you mean like that he was saying that we all together create our reality?
Yes, in a sense, there is a harmony by our whole action as it can be seen from afar. And the more you are awake, you tend to be in the same tune. You may be different one from each other and have different perspectives in life, but you see the same world in a sense. Whereas if you are asleep, you are dreaming in the world depending on the things you desire, mostly on your tendencies. And the people who are asleep are in a sense promoting the negative stances of the world, and the negative stances of the world also it is what triggers many times the person who wants to awaken into moving more and more and more and becoming more awakened and closer to fire, like earth by collapsing and moving and starting to bring out the moisture, it becomes mud, and mud by moving very much, it clears out the mud and it becomes water, clearer and more pristine. The water that moves a lot and it intensifies, it goes up and up and up, it starts to boil. The boiling water vapors, and the vapor start to burst, and by the burst you start to have flame. And this flame is the material aspect of the fire that Heraclitus talks about. And the death of the fire is the coming of the aerial form, and the death of the aerial becomes water, and so on. And there is a fire that's above the more material fire. There is the fire of the mind, This is, in a sense, what is attuned to logos.
Would that be connected to like a spiritual fire? Sometimes there's like depictions of like a flaming heart as well. Is that connected to this as well?
Yes, and also it appears like seeds that are inside the creation, inside physis. Physis is the physical world, and also it is nature. And physis brings about your tendencies, your good and bad traits, but also the way you can live and the way something it goes a natural way. And inside every part of the physis, there are these sperms, let's say, of possibilities, like what you are capable to do, but you are not yet into fruition. Like every kind of creation has inside it this kind of logos empers, that it is also the will to see things differently and to wonder and to try to evolve and go to a higher state. And I think by nature expanding and tuning more and the fire rising, in a sense the world progresses both in its natural sense, the expanded water, and both in the fire sense, that it is going up and it is coming into fruition. Even when a tree wants to get out of the ground, when it is a sprout, when it is going from a sprout to a little tree little by little, it is meeting the ground and it has to pierce up the ground and bring down its roots. It is a similar process. This want to live and this anger of creativity sometimes can be described by Heraclitus as imarmeni, the opposite force that spikes your embers.
Yeah, that's so beautiful with like the symbolism of the tree, that it needs to have its roots deep in the ground to reach the sky.
Fun fact, once I had like a traditional acupuncture, like a Taoist one, and the woman that had acupuncture on me said that you have a lot of liver energy. Like there are seven internal organs, and each one of the organs is connected with some kind of energy that can go bad or good, depending on how you utilize, and it is harmonious with the others and it doesn't go to excess. And she said, like, you have a lot of anger inside of you, and the liver also, they want to, I want out, I want to break free, I want to go up, to go out, to see more, more, more. This is to not yield. This is the part of this anger energy that pushes out. She told me specifically the example about the tree. But also she said there are the kidneys. The kidneys symbolizes the feminine energy. When the kidneys, they clear up different substances, and also they produce hormones themselves, similar to the liver, but it symbolizes more like the mother energy to its person. And the production of the vital and, in a sense, present mental kind of energy called zinc.
So is that, you said Jin, so you mean like from like yin and yang?
No, like Jing
Mm-hmm.
is like I don't know if it is a type of transmuted chi in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
but it is like our vital force and also has to do with our mental capacity and our ability to heal, our abilities to see things differently, to change, to turn the table in a sense, not only go full force. And also it is connected with blood.
Hmm. I don't know. Some of it makes me think of like the from like the Asian like traditions regarding like wind horse, because it is said that the mind is seated upon the wind horse, and if you cultivate it well, then it transforms negative things into positive things, and that the mind sits like on the wind horse, like a rider sits on a horse, generally speaking, and that and similarly, it's like the life force energy as well, but it's more like connected to the breath more than blood, from what I can recall. So it's not exactly, but they have been like linking. It has been linked to chi, for sure. The wind horse concept as well.
Something that we didn't yet touch upon really, I think, would be like, what if for, like, say for an individual, this archetype of the self has become like unbalanced. It's not like I mean, like, I guess it would be like, what would you say? Like
Yeah, because I didn't really think of it as there being a polar opposite of the self, really, but more like a negative process of integration. But I guess that would
yeah.
also kind of be an imbalance. But yeah, I've got a little bit of notes on that. Maybe we'll spark some discussion here.
Yeah, great.
Sounds awesome.
So yeah, we have that meme floating around the Fox Den. It was originally from American Dad, but I think we put a Pepe over his face. But he's looking at this gauge, this barometer, right? And it's flipping over towards the rightmost two sections, and the needle is right in the middle between two of them. One of them is secret esoteric knowledge, and it's just at the end, about to spill over into the final one, which is mental illness. So, Jung talked about how kind of the negative integration of these things can lead to sort of like megalomania or other things like that. So, I think you see a lot of that kind of with recreational drug use for sure, and maybe in like conspiracy and stuff, like the whole lizard people kind of thing. But I kind of saw it to really distill it into kind of modern terms and what I kind of think is going on. So Jung had the 4 functions, like what was it? Thinking, feeling, intuiting, and I always forget the 4th one. But so like the 4, what is it, base?
Was it like perceiving / judging? Wasn't it? Or am I?
Sounds about right. Something like that.
Something
It
like
doesn't.
that.
It doesn't totally matter. But there's 4 functions. And you can get in a way individually or even culturally, or as a society, you can get to where that is off balance, right? You're supposed to be using all 4 functions in relatively equal balance. But when you are in our world, say, like we all are, you could use one function so much that the other three could become atrophied, right? And so in our world, that would be the thinking function. And so all the other three aspects would fall into the unconscious, right? And so we were kind of talking about the tower, like the tower card, or this idea of like the boomer tower in the previous discussion. And say if you were, as a person or culturally, you know, you build these towers, these are your institutions, these are your social paradigms, and a tower built in an unbalanced manner is doomed to collapse on its own weight. It's not built up to spec, it's not built correctly. And so then that feeds into the idea of, you know, remodeling the tower. Sometimes you just need a little occasional remodeling, but if things get really out of whack, then that tower is gonna fall. And, you know, proper foundations can make sure the transitionary periods are not so catastrophic. And see, that kind of leads into my tarot talk too, if I can get that out of the way, unless someone wants to say anything about that. We'll kind of circle back around to it, though, to negative integration.
Sounds good to me, going into the tarot after this, regarding the boomer tower and all that. Because, I mean, some of it goes into like the whole Trito stuff, but we're kind of already touched upon that and some of the Thunder God stuff as well. So, yeah, take it away, Raine.
So yeah, on the last talk, we ended up, we did the tower and the star. So conveniently, this talk goes right through to the next cards. So I'm going to gloss over Moon, Sun, and Final Judgment and get to the World, which is the final card of the Tarot High Arcana. So remember, we had the tower that you or we, you know, you can go individual or collective, have built, either collapses or is struck with that bolt of illumination. We are grounded and humbled by the star card. And then we move through the murky depths of the moon and then out into the light of the sun, refined by the final judgment to then flourish as the world. You could think of that as kind of like the phoenix shining brightly after rising from the ashes. So the tower through the moon often represents the darkest part of the journey, but then yields the highest reward when you get through it, right? And you can look at the root word of moon, or another word for moon, ancient word for moon, is luna. That would be, you know, the root word of lunacy. So again, you see the negative integration of the self having, you know, dire consequences like megalomania or mental illness. But if you push through that dark night of the soul into the sun, and then finally that kind of like creative birthing process of the world, you do get to enjoy your momentary peace. You get a little slice of individuation, individual or collective, and, you know, you share it around the bonfire with your sangha, and you get ready to take your trip around the sun again. And some people kind of think that the result of this journey, you know, the boon, the reward, would be a kind of new interaction between conscious and unconscious, which would result in an expansion of ego awareness, right? So your ego awareness is getting wider and wider. You're getting closer to that perfect and unattainable image of the self. And on the typical Rider-Waite-Smith deck of the world, you know, you had this kind of, it looks like a feminine figure, although some people think it's supposed to be vaguely androgynous. And there's this elliptical wreath around her. I think it's intentionally supposed to almost look like scales, like the Ouroboros. But it's not the, you know, lizard mine scaled Ouroboros, but this heavenly wreath, elliptical and feminine. And it is like divine creation spewing out into the world. And the Hermetic deck from the Order of the Golden Dawn kind of updated it for modern times, they took the world and they turned it into the universe card. Kind of like more modern terminology as we look up at the stars in a new light. And the somewhat androgynous but feminine figure of the world is replaced with basically the cosmic man. They call it the figure of the great one of the night and time.
That figure kind of also makes me think of like the Nightwalker kind of figure that's also like still connected to like the this deer god from like Princess Mononoke as well, just like from like Japanese Shinto religion, like originally where it comes from. And it made me think of that as well, because it's called the Nightwalker, and it seems to be also connected to that, which is it is kind of also a symbol of the self, that one. So
yeah, it's got that like vaguely human face that gives me Uncanny Valley vibes.
yeah, and then the deer god one, the particular figure seems to be then again like be based on the Kirin, so the killing again with that one too. So it's again like another symbol, but it seems like yeah, that's kind of what it reminds me of a lot.
Yeah, such a fascinating subject. This cosmic man, symbols of wholeness. Really.
Yeah, and then regarding like I guess the negative side of it all, from what I've been looking into it as well, it seems to be also connected to like often like imbalances in particular archetypes or particular like like the ruler, the magician, or the trickster, or like something. If something isn't balanced right, or not really integrated well, or like the ego tries to like take the place of the self as like the ruling center of the psyche. It can go a bit like haywire, and things can go pretty bad. But then there's also like figures like from like in Hinduism, like you have these wrathful deities, and they're like kind of the wrathful self that comes up to chop off the head of the ego when it tries to do that, when it tries to think like, yeah, I am God, or I don't know, something along these lines, or like, I am the self, and then it comes up and chops it down, and it's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, and that brings us like to us as egos, or like as in our conscious side. We shouldn't think like that we know best alone with our conscious mind. That that usually then would result in these towers, and kind of like, I guess that head of the ego is the tower that is being struck down by this wrathful part of the self, which is like, hey, this really isn't a good idea. You should listen to the self, not think that you are it. And that's kind of a difficult thing to maybe wrap your head around. It's like how to then be sure that it's the self. I don't know. You kind of get to trust it, your intuition, your dreams, your gut feeling.
Yeah, and I think that I think it was like Alan Watts who said something along the lines that within like Buddhism, for instance, that it's one of the reasons why they talk about non-self. So you don't end up identifying with it, because that's also a trap. That's what good old Alan Watts said about that, and yeah, but
It's like the people that strive for a world of ego death or something.
yeah. I don't know. One thing that came to mind also is this like this card that Ulee have in this one like Finnish deck with these spirits, that where there's this dude who comes up from the water. So he's standing on some like water or something like that, and he with an axe to chop down the tree in that that's like the tower card in that deck. And he always reminds me of like a kind of like a thunder god in a way. That he's coming like out of the water, so out of the, I guess, the collective unconscious to chop down. It's like again with the wrathful side of the self. It's like, nope, this has been too much, and it's the, I guess the crown that falls off is like maybe the idea that the ego has of like, oh yes, it builds on the persona up as well, and to some ridiculous degree. And I think that's another thing too, like what I read about the persona. But anyways, Lin, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add about that card where he's chopping down the big tree. It's about like this story about this big oak that grew so big that it made it dark. It covered the sun. So that's why it had to be cut down, because it grew too large. It's kind of like the tower, yes. I mean, we love trees and we love big old trees, but this one was like massive. So that it blocked the sun.
It's like when Mr. Burns tries to block out the sun in The Simpsons.
Oh, I think I missed that one.
And he gets shot by Maggie at the end, the baby. But yeah, when you look at the tower card, I mean, what strikes the tower but the lightning bolt, the wielder of the lightning.
Yeah, and that's like a symbol of truth too. It's like the lightning, the awareness coming there to be like, hey.
The divine funk.
Yeah, basically. And I don't know, one thing that I wanted to also say is regarding the persona, from what I've heard also, is that when a person solely identifies with the persona to the degree that they don't even are aware of their ego consciousness, even they're just so tied up that sometimes then the self in that wrathful form then can come up, because they're like so tied up in like the social rod of it all, that like some figure like the Kala Bhairava or like Kali comes up and it's like, this is enough. Like I'm done with it. And like Kala Bhairava, for instance, is also connected, or has been connected to like Dionysus as well, in like Dionysus linked to the self kind of figure, instead of the one that is associated with like drinking. And similarly, like he can come up, and he represents also the wild aspect in that situation that is often tends to be like denied or repressed.
Yeah, that kind of persona thing could definitely manifest in a lot of ways, but I think you see it a lot now, or one way you see it a lot now is like the people that are like super into stoicism and think they're like strictly logical and aren't never fall prey to their emotions, and yet they're the ones that get angry at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, it's kind of like they repressed it, so they don't even notice it themselves.
Mhm.
when it happens.
It's so obvious, and yet they're the only one that can't see it.
I guess that's what we call kind of shadow possession. Those moments when it comes like that.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That tends to happen, and it comes over, and yeah.
And that's why it's important to integrate all the sides of yourself. It's like we are not just logic, we're also the emotional, we're not just thoughts, we are also our bodies, and so on.
Yeah, basically, and I think like there's it's a lot connected to that, but also regarding the cosmic man, I would, in some sense, also like connect the cosmic man in to personally, at least, to like our inner hunter gatherer, our inner like wild woman or man, kind of like, think also like Garden of Eden kind of figures, the cosmic couple in that sense. But then you also have the at the end of time, the cosmic couple in another sense that is often like clothed, and I think, Lin, you mentioned about like what was it? Was it Krishna, or who was it? The cosmic couple that you mentioned. It just can't remember it right now.
Shiva and Shakti, maybe.
Yeah, that's it. Shiva and Shakti, and I know actually about them in some of the stories that they come together in a way that they are almost merged as a singular figure as well in some of the stories, and it depends. Sometimes they are again split, and sometimes they're together in one figure. I don't know, it depends on the stories, I guess.
Yeah. I guess for me personally, being a Finn in Finland, there's like this mythology of Ukko and Akka, which are like the original couple goddesses, or god and goddess, like the storm thunder god Ukko and his wife Akka, which is like the earth goddess, and the union of these two creates then Pekko or Pellervoinen, which is like connected a lot to the seasons, to death and rebirth, to fertility, and he is like one of those figures of like these two opposites kind of coming together and making the third. And I have been seeing this white rabbit sometimes on my walks, and that's one of the symbols of Pekko. And I don't know, it's just interesting to me how that keeps happening.
Here's your scarab.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, and I think one time it was even that we saw it, and that you've seen it at least. That it wasn't even winter, and it didn't make any freaking sense why it would be there. It just didn't make any sense. That would be white already at that time of the year, and it was there, and I was like, okay, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. It's been interesting, and sometimes like you've been seeing it, Lin, and I haven't been seeing it, and it's like, and I'm like, well, I mean, I guess, but then sometimes I do see it, because I was like, I don't know, did you really see? And then I next time I see it. But generally, like, yeah, it seems to be something that I guess the self or the cosmic man is trying to communicate to you specifically, and that comes again like to what you said also, like how it's very individual.
Yeah, it's very fascinating, and really these things I didn't really know all of this before, but we then looked into it more. I really only knew about that he's linked to the fields and like a protector of the fields and of I guess was it barley and beer. But then we found this like much more deeper meaning as well, that he is the son of these older deities, and yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, Anastasios, I see here that you had written who are the parents of, I think, Wainamoinen. You mean, maybe, I don't know, Lin, if you're aware of who his parents are.
Gosh, I really should know this better. I think it's Maailma. It's the same type of goddess, like the earth goddess, just a different name for it. Maailma. I think
Ma.
that's it. Yes. Ma means earth, and Emo means like a mother, or like a, even like, I guess the word is more like used for animal mothers, really, but in this sense, it's like the original earth goddess mother.
And does he have a father?
I don't remember exactly this.
It is like
Probably it would be make sense that it's also Ukko, but I don't know.
like there is the marriage of the heavenly couple and the marriage of heaven and earth, in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like then becomes like a symbol of wholeness, because it's the divine couple, and then their son is a symbol of the self as well, because it is like the combination of these two opposite deities coming together and forming a third figure that has both elements. And this is like present in, I think, all or like very, very many cultures in different ways.
Also, Dionysus, like in the very original form, he was the son of Zeus and the son of Dion, like a Titaness, that it is also like the heavenly mother, in a sense. And then you have Zeus. The second Dionysus, however, is called Zagreus, and he is the son of Persephone or Demeter, depending on the story, and the dark Zeus. Dark Zeus can be called can be either a name for Hades, sorry, or it can be a name for an older deity, a Chthonian deity called also Melichios Zeus. That is a name for Hane Purin Zeus, and it is depicted as a golden underworld snake, like a Chthonian underworld deity.
I just looked up about Wainamoinen, and it says here that he has a mother, but he doesn't seem to be having a father, and that he got after a while born, and that she was lying in the primal waters for a very long time, and then eventually gave birth, and that apparently Väinämöinen and the Pellervoinen, so the Pekko figure, are both born around the same time period, or like when the Earth was created. So in the beginning of the creation story, and Väinämöinen found the land empty and barren, and together with Pellervoinen, so Pekko, he spread life over the land. So they worked together to make it habitable.
Yeah, Pekko is, or Pellervoinen is also in the story said, yes, to be a person who is planting trees where he walks. Makes sense that I'm seeing him everywhere because I love trees and I like to plant trees as well.
Regarding the link also
Yes.
that you sent, Anastasios, I also saw here, like it also says about the expedition to India of Dionysus.
Like this, Dionysus is so old that the Trojan War seems like modern. He is considered to be like a very, very old figure. And he was a kingly figure, like very strong, down to earth, but also had heavenly characteristics. And he was like a very strong persona. Alexander the Great wanted to be similar to him. And his animal very much is depicted as a panther. He rides a panther, this Dionysus.
Huh.
Also, he is called Iakchos. And
Yeah.
another not very well understood name. It says it is a minor deity, but it is mostly a deity lost in time. Like you won't see today's sources having a lot about Iakchos. Also, he can wield the lightning.
That's interesting. He can wield the lightning. I know about the Eleusinian mysteries. I've looked into that, regarding that, and like this Dionysian figure, or the form of him, that has like both like I think he's a son of Zeus and Demeter, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. And there's like a lot of myths surrounding him, but they don't know that about his ability to wield the lightning, though. But I did know about like this figure, and he seems to be linked to like a very old Dionysus figure that is much older than the I guess popular perceptions regarding the Dionysus party god kind of figure, and seems to be pointing more towards like a figure of the self, from what I've been able to find out about this figure.
Like, yes, Iakchos, Athena, and I think, I'm not sure if Apollo can yield the lightning of Zeus, but yes, mostly Iakchos and Athena are the only ones capable of yielding Zeus lightning among the gods. This is something very rare. And also in Roman mythology, Mars. Zagreus symbolizes mostly the sense of the deep self and the unfulfilled child, because he died as a baby, eaten by the giants, like he was going to be, in a sense, the leader of gods, and he was very beloved, but he died. And Dionysus of Semele is also a bit different figure. He is a demigod, actually, Dionysus of Semele, and he replaced in the 12 gods pantheon Hestia, that was the first and the last of the children of Kronos, the first to be born and the last to be released by her father's stomach.
I haven't heard about this before.
I also I also know regarding like this Yaku's figure also that like when he went into Hades, he was Zagreus, and then when he came up and went up to Olympus, he became Iacchus. From like the mystery school, at least, from what I've seen.
Yes, one is the heavenly couple childs and their inheritor, and the other is like watching a lake and see yourself being mirrored. But underground, the waters are a bit darker, so the other is from the chthonic side, the underworld.
Yeah, and it seems to be in the mystery schools that the figure of Zagreus and this Iacchus figure seem to be equated as being the same figure in some sense, or like two sides of the same figure. Like when he's down there, he's this, but then when he's up, and it seems to be like the goal of the mystery schools was to be like this figure, to combine kind of the rational and the irrational side of life, and the chthonic and the heavenly together in a way, so that I guess we're not like the Stoics, overpowered by our emotions. We are trying to detach from them. So it's like we're in control of that in some sense by letting it flow. So it's not really control, might not even be the proper word for it, but it's like, I guess, integrated.
It is not in control because you have to participate in the end, and you cannot let it wild because in the end you will be let out of it. In the sense to be authentic, but in the same time to be present. There are the two things you have to do in order to live and proceed in life. Like in order to step forward, you have to let your feet off the ground and then ground them again, having an intent to go forward. As the bird again, let its wings drop,
Yeah.
but then it goes up again, the wings, and up and down. It doesn't go up or down, it goes forward by having in mind where it wants to go.
Yeah, but it seems like the key in that is for the two. I guess the going. I guess to be in the flow of the. You could see it as a wave, like how it goes up and then it goes down and it goes back up and it goes back down, and it's kind of like surfing on it and going on that wave, and to keep like going on that without like I guess trying to build a dam or falling into the water, but to learn how to ride the wave in some sense. But similarly, I don't know, like the fact that he can wear the lightning, and like that he comes from like again like the kind of a goddess connected to earth, and then like a sky. So again like two coming together. Also his chthonic like underworld and like heavenly form being kind of one figure reminds me of again like the kind of like the third being born from that. So the Trito kind of figure, so wielding the lightning. And it reminds me of like the Nagas and the Garuda also, regarding Buddha, like that the Buddha made peace between both the Naga and the Garuda in one of the stories surrounding him, that he made peace between them. So they would stop fighting. He kind of fulfilled like a mediating function in that story, where he was mediating between the two of them, and he showed to both of them like look, you don't have to fight. And he kind of, by making peace, he brought peace to the kingdom. Is how the story goes. But I think like we can, in that sense, see it as a symbolic story for ourselves and the kingdom that is our minds as well.
Also, like a quick binder on this, it is that An, like the Sky Father of the Sumerian religion, has a dark counterpart, Abzu, that in a sense is the god of the abyss. And it is interesting, like you see someone in a sense sunk, but watching up and affecting the surrounding, and someone watching, going up and watching from above. Like you have these two faculties.
Yeah, basically.
Also, about the cosmic man, it is very interesting, like the Buddhist concept of diamond body, I think. Is it called, or rainbow body? And there is the Taoist one that is the diamond body, I think. One of the two. I don't remember how they...
I remember something of the sort, yes.
Mm-hmm. And it affects also the physical body. Like these people become very light, and also their body after death does not becomes mummified in a sense. Like they die in seated yoga position. And also like the Taoist ones, little by little are shrinking, like they are going so much with the flow that they are becoming sublime themselves. Thus you have the Taoist immortals, and you have the enlightened state in Buddhism.
I think from what I've gathered, you were talking about the crystal and the rainbow body from Buddhism, something along these lines. Anastasios?
Yes. I'm not sure if it is the one called crystal or diamond, but yes, like, and also the word. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the adamantine body. It's also called the adamantine body, the crystal body, and the rainbow body, and it refers to the same thing, and which is the attaining of like enlightenment is like seen like as in connection with it. That's when you become enlightened, you attain this like crystalline body in some sense, how you could say it, or rainbow body. And there's also like pictures of Buddha where he has this like rainbow body as well.
Yes, and fun fact, this exists sort of in Christianity as well. Like one of the criteria for someone to be called a saint, especially for monks, they were doing it. They let the body outside, covered in a way that animals won't eat it, and they let it. If it rots, that means that you didn't reach the state of sainthood. If it if it starts to mummify or like it doesn't rot at all, they consider him like being a saint. Like he took out like the bad aspects of his psyche, and he became very light. It reminds me also in Egyptian mythology, the heart and the feather. If the heart is impure, it is very heavy and bloated. If it is light like a feather or lighter, even though its material is heavy, it flies. The heart is happy, it flies.
I don't know. It reminds me also about I've heard about these like Buddhist monks that died and that their bodies just mummified on their own, like they didn't really do anything, and they became mummies in of itself. So that kind of reminds me of that too, like what you said regarding the saints as well. It's just very interesting kind of stuff.
Yes, like I believe that it is also partly why they fast, in a sense, and they hone themselves not just to stay, but also to be able to see things in a bit out of the box way. They get released by the fatality of fate, and they acquire the harmony aspect of it.
So to live in harmony with one's fate, or
In a sense, harmony by itself, it is this proceeding musicality of the world. Like everything leaves a resonance, everything can go away, then it reacts, then everything has its own sequence and its consequences. It is something pristine, like it is very, very touching, but also transcending. The whole sense of this is described also in Plato. It is the Pythagorean notion. It is called the music of the heavenly spheres, and it talks about the like dance of the seven spheres. Each one, or eight, depending on the model, each one has one note, and they produce the harmony, the constant sound in a way of the world that has as its core the goodness, that it's been in the center of the world and permeates the world in a sense.
so the resonance of the world, and to be part of it.
Yes. In a sense, even though being authentic, you individuate, you are also more sincere towards the world. For your sincerity, as the time goes and you are sincere in action, thoughts, and go in your own way, even the people who don't like the way you go will accept you. because of its authenticity. This has a type of harmony. And also, when you see the world and you act with it and you converse with it and you interact with it, it is something that if you shut yourself out, your actions are insincere. Like there is a cut in your consciousness. You are not seeing all. You are not acting upon everything. You are slacking in the selves. And arrogance, it's weakness. The arrogant person starts to lose sight of the whole picture. And also justice and virtue, in a sense, they are connected with this. The dynamic part of what is, in a sense, the Ma'at. To be in accordance with Ma'at, not only handed by the consequences of Ma'at, but being above the lake and seeing like the whole construct, the whole sim, and beyond it, and like this is the right way to do things, like the consequences of the action, and also the feelings, like you become more altruistic. It is very possible. You are able to feel the pain of the other and bear with it and entertain more to it, like a way out or a way to transmute it or a way to see things through it, to recollect through the sorrow.
Yeah, to have compassion
Mm-hmm.
for different ways of living.
Yes. And for life itself. Like you see the sun rises and you say, this is good. You see also the night and you say, it is soothing.
Mm.
You have an harmony.
Yeah, you're finding great gratitude for both the light and the dark and the cycles of life.
And I guess in some sense it's also like at the same time you're kind of, I guess, learning how to go with that in a way, so that you're, I guess, like that's kind of the Taoist notion of like Wu Wei, or like non-action, how it's also called, but it's actually not a correct term, non-action, because you kind of do stuff, but it's more like aligned to that what is kind of like higher in a way of like that it flows naturally without being like something forced, or like something like done in a way that is just like planned and has to be done.
Yeah, or it isn't stagnant either. It's like it's not like overly what do you call that? Well, forced, I guess we can say. Forced into being, because that's not sustainable, but also like stagnancy is another extreme then, like of non-action, or like not wanting to look at something that needs our attention.
Yes, and also it is a part of companionship, going together, or fellowship, like feeling like you are in companionship with life in the world, but also with things that can be like the rock, or like the salts of the earth, like everything. There is an aspect of it and how it acts and it affects the environment, and they are significant for that they are there.
I believe that everything's significant, really.
Yes, it goes, I think, this type of, that everything is significant.
In its own way, yes, it is. It's like everything is kind of interconnected. It kind of reminds me of like this Buddhist like idea of like interdependence of everything, and like how they have like this conception of like this spider web that kind of symbolizes the universe or the world, and it has all these like little raindrops on it, and everything is reflected in all of the raindrops, and everything kind of depends on everything else, and in not in a way, but it is that way, really, and yeah, there's just no another way kind of how to put it, and it's similarly I think also like there's this idea also in it from what I've been like looking into this kind of like interdependence kind of idea, and it's kind of like how the cosmos and the universe, even though like Vervaeke talks about that like as if they are separate things, they're kind of interconnected, and they come on top of each other as well. So it's like they come together. It's like Cosmos, the Sky Father, the universe, the Earth Mother, and they meet, and then from their meeting and our conscious interacting, the third kind of merge, and that ties into like Raine's like idea of like Trito, and I think like what he was talking about with that, and like these thunder gods and these kind of other like vegetation deity figures and all those figures as well. And I guess they uphold and kind of work in accordance to this like state of the interdependence of everything, and like are I guess aware of that. And in that sense, I guess work together with the I guess the how the Greeks would put it, like the logos of the universe or the cosmic order.
That was beautiful.
It gave a good vibe. In a sense, this is also the emotional side of the sense of harmony and understanding the duty and justice sometimes, and compassion, and these mad kind of aspects of the surrounding.
Raine, did you want to say something?
No, sorry, I didn't chime in.
I'd like to say welcome, Ulee.
Yes, that's my name. Thank you. I'm glad to be
Welcome.
here.
Welcome to the round table.
Welcome on board.
Mikhail invited me, and I joined in the last, I think, few minutes of the Feminine Earth discussion, so I thought it would be fitting for me to join the other side of that and the masculine cosmic.
Yeah. So happy to have you on. I don't know if you have anything to add regarding that, any ideas that you have.
I'm sure I will as the conversation arises, as people talk, ideas come to mind and whatnot.
Yeah.
It is also interesting, like, from these two aspects of archetypes that may be a bit connected to masculine, maybe to feminine, maybe to none of them. Like even the name father has to do with fettering or putting into array, or in a sense, the best way is inspire, like from the High Father Spirit. And from the earthly, this Ma, like matter, material, and mana and such, has to do with the vitality and the nurturing and the sense that you exist in one way or another. So it is interesting to see both aspects.
Yeah, like someone with a lot of masculine energy kind of tends to come off as very grounded in the earth, which is interesting because it's kind of opposite, where masculine energy is more about the cosmic and the spiritual, while someone who is in that a lot comes off as being very in the moment. Someone who really has that and gives a good example of that is Mikhail, who should be joining soon, I hope. And that's very much how he is, I would say. Very much a spiritual, masculine guy, and comes off as very grounded through all the activities that he does and the way that he takes care of his material and his environment.
I would say regarding like that, like regarding like the taking care of the environment. I just wanted to say like I kind of feel like he, in that sense, he's not just the higher kind of spheres then, but also he has a connection to the earth as well, and that makes him grounded in that sense.
Absolutely.
I would say.
Absolutely.
And it seems like something like that we've talked already before in this talk about like these two spheres coming together in one individual.
Yeah, exactly. He definitely has a very strong connection with the earth, and that shows where during a medicine experience we had, he like really started to feel the pain of the earth. And it's really crazy how it like the state of the feminine earth manifests through people like that, and people who are really grounded in that, which can be really hard, but it could also be really, really empowering and strong.
Yeah, it really is the case, kind of like to have that masculinity grounded is what kind of gives it like its stability. And in the same way, like women can have this masculine side to them as well, just as men can have this connection to the earth.
It kind of reminds me also about like how with like wind horse from like the shamanic traditions in like Asia also, specifically like from the Bon and like the Mongolian traditions, how the wind horse rises up from the I guess like it rises up from below, from the earth, the vitality, and that vitality rises up, and through that it goes up towards the heavenly or cosmic realms, and opens up the ability to go through these different like doors, and it's almost like you could see like a tree, like how we already talked about it earlier, what you had said, Anastasios, like how the tree as a seedling comes up, and then it first puts down its roots, and then it grows higher up into the sky. And similarly, like with the wind horse, which connects one to the cosmic man through the breath, it's like also the same similar, like how you kind of need both sides, and it kind of is also symbolized in like it's a horse, so it's terrestrial, and it has wings, and so a connection to the sky as well.
Yes, actually, Pegasus, it is also a tamed aspect of the first children of Poseidon, and most possibly the original Earth Mother, Water Mother. Like it was one of their two heroic sons, but he died. Maybe it was Veleros. Maybe it had different name, but it is interesting that Zeus accepted him. And this is not only for the piety of Pegasus, but also you cannot have two rulers of heaven like in Greek mythology. You will either have, because he tried to go into Olympus by himself to become like in apotheosis without the help of Zeus, Bellerophon, even though he had the right. So, in a sense, striking him down and taking out his sight to not be able to take again the right steps. It is also a way to show like that Pegasus is the pure aspect of this going to divine energy without the sense of self, if you take it out.
What you're saying here also kind of reminds me of like how with the wind horse also, like how it said like how the wind horse itself transforms all the negative into positive aspects, and like how it's kind of like it's almost like a cleansing kind of energy that goes through and transforms the negative into the positive, and kind of clears out all of the I guess the negative things in the body in some sense to transform these into positive aspects.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and to bring this into context with the wind horse, like how to cultivate wind horse is like things like exercise, breath work, qigong, probably meditation too. Yeah.
It reminds me also the camel, like in the different forms that Nietzsche describes for someone to become the overman. Like the sense of the hard work. Also this springy sense of power.
I was thinking a bit. It's kind of rewinds the topic a little bit, so apologies. But when we talk about like the language roots and etymology and everything that Anastasio always brings to the table,
Mhm.
we see these common lingual sort of traditions. Like mother, matter, also like mom or home. You hear these, repetitive
Mhm.
sounds, even father or pater or Jupiter or Fetter, like Anastasios was saying. And in the unrecorded little get together yesterday, we were talking about this too. Leak brought up, maybe there's something to even the sounds and the vibrations themselves, especially with those really simple words like mom and father, and those obviously relating to like the core experiences, especially as a child. Some of the first things that you recognize be your mother and father. Now, obviously, there is a passing down of etymology and language traditions and stories, but these also seem to pop up across time and maybe get lost and then reemerge again in traditions. So these kind of things pop up not only in imagery, but language and sound itself. And that in itself is a kind of cosmic order to things.
Yes, I agree very much with it. It is either something that wants to go out, or like it is a repetition of the same meaning, like a meme of it.
Yeah, maybe there is that cosmic order, or maybe it's just something that's been ingrained in us for so many, tens of thousands of years that it won't go away. But either way, it's part of us.
It kind of reminded me, just like now you were both talking about it, like Anastasios and Raine, like regarding like archetypes, and like how Carl Jung talks about like these archetypes and like the collective unconscious, and like how they stem from our like archaic past as well, and he ties them to like instincts and very like deeply rooted parts of ourselves. And it makes me again also think about like our hunter-gatherer self, and our like hunter-gatherer ancestors who came from nature, who lived in nature, and just like and it seems to be even potentially tied to even earlier things than just us being humans as well, regarding some of the archetypes that are popping up, not just in humans, regarding certain fears or certain behaviors. And it seems to be something pretty shared. And I think maybe that's like also part of the cosmic order in some sense. There's like kind of energies that exist that are like kind of internal, but also like die and are reborn constantly in all of life itself.
Yes, to come
Archetypes.
out the primo state, in a sense.
Yeah.
Primo also comes, the first one comes from, it is actually a superlative, and first. And it means the very beginning. Also, if you think about it, like in Christian mythology and Jewish mythology, like the Prince of Darkness, Beelzebub, I think it is called in the Hebrew mythos. It is, how can I say? Prince means the one that takes first. The reason why Adam lost the world is because he made very bad command of the world. Like he didn't take good care of the earth he was assigned to. Like he was a caretaker of the earth.
Yeah, there's kind of similar stories in other mythologies where there are like these earlier almost prototypes of humans, but they're like they don't take care of things right, or they're mean, or they hurt each other, or the animals kind of idea.
Yes.
I think usually they get washed away and then God tries again.
Yes, exactly.
And also even like
Mhm.
Jordan Peterson talks about how Adam never really, he doesn't come across as a very well put together person in the Garden of Eden. Like he eats the apple, and then when God asks what happened, he blames Eve for it, But continue,
Yeah.
Anastasio.
Yes, it has to do, I think, with a sense also on being on time and being in first action, and in the sense that there is the responsibility for it. If you don't take part, don't act on the world that is around you, it will take the direction it wants. Like, if you don't take care of your body, like, there is a possibility that your body physiology by itself won't sustain a good health if it's follow different types of tendencies. Like, you have to have some goal or consciousness on it, and I think this is authenticity. Also, authenticity comes from Sophocles, in the sense that the authentic person puts his life on the line. It means the one who chooses his own end, authentis. And it came to mean in medieval times also the Lord. It's very interesting. In Turkish, for example, they still use it from Byzantine Greek, Afendis. And it is called for Lord, in a sense. And like autocrator, and is the Greek name for emperor, not the one who ordains emperor. Autocrator is the one who holds himself, who controls himself. And there are two ways for it. Either you are unyielding and unscathed by the outer changes, keeping your calm and doing what you want to do, like the immovable mind, or you go above, or you overcome all circumstances, above all circumstances. And it is interesting on this, like when we saw in the Egyptian mythology, Osiris, like having as an element his spine that supports progress and goes up. The word for right and for royal, it comes from the word from the Proto-Indo-European root rect, that means to support, to straight up, and from there you have recto, that it means I put my spine straight up, I put things straight, I take up the challenges, I do what I have to do. Like this, together with a sense of feeling the world, I think these are the two aspects of the cosmic man. And then there is something that goes even transcendent than this, that brings the liberation.
Yeah, we kind of see a reflex of that in colloquials, like, have a backbone or grow a spine or stand up straight, stand up for yourself, that kind of thing.
Bravo. Like this is a spineless coward, or this person has a bad backbone, correct? Very good. This is... Yes, it is most possibly that authenticity has to do with this notion of backbone.
Well, I mean, in some sense, to be authentic, I guess, in some sense, one requires something along those lines. But similarly, also, I would want to bring up like some more like Taoist notion of like that it's not just that, but it's also just being able to flow with life more naturally. In a non-forced way as well.
It reminds me like of the bundle of arrows or the bundle of sticks, that if you have a strong stick, even the strong can be broken by a strong person. But if you have many together, like they make a spongy and collective type of energy and you cannot break. The sense of community.
And I kind of feel with that it kind of brings it back to like the whole notion of like sangha and like community that we were also like talking earlier about, and kind of brings it back to that. And yeah, one of the elements of that also is like it's like practice of different things together in that sense, like I don't know, I guess mindfulness or qigong or such things. But I don't know, with the where we started with like the primal kind of sense, and I already had mentioned that in the beginning. It's like, you know, the cosmic man is kind of like in that sense connected to both the primal and that what kind of where everything came from, but also you know, everything is also that at the end. So he's kind of like both the prima materia and the philosopher's stone at the end of time, and in some sense, like he's kind of outside of time, because it's not something that can be, the ideal can't be fully reached, like you also had alluded to, Raine.
Yeah, like the cosmic man would be that thing we all strive for. You know, we put order to the universe, but also try to mirror it and go with the flow, you know? So I think, to bring it back to tarot, that would kind of be like the emperor card, you know, the patriarchal figure. Of course, when he's doing things right, it works in accord with the universe, and then when he's doing things wrong, you know, it's the mad king.
By the way, did anyone saw like this overly sarcastic video about Zahak? Like
I
the
didn't watch it
serpent?
yet. I saved it, but I forgot to watch it again.
Yes, like I think it is connected with the sense of the Mad King, somewhat.
It kind of then makes me think of like the, again, this notion of like, I guess the negative or like the improper, I guess, like integration of the different parts, and like the imbalance again becoming so. And that kind of, I don't know, it kind of reminds me then again of like the tower card, and like the things don't flow nicely as they should, and it becomes this tower again. And I don't know, it really seems to me like how all of these things seem to be tying around like the coming together of opposites, but also the being able to continuously flow and not become stagnant at the same time.
Also, it reminds me a bit of the mandate of heaven.
Yeah.
In Taoist thought.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the rules that like Confucius laid out for what the job that a good king does, and it's like not taking credit for the things he did necessarily, or not doing things just to take credit for them. And when a good king acts, the people don't even know that he acted at all, kind of rules. I can't think of the exact quotes off the top of my head, but it is a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yes, because there is also the sense of the bigger picture that the solution sometimes is beyond me, and there is so much necessity to bring about, to win, to bring about the correct resolve and help everyone, that you go beyond your ego. You understand that the thing you are doing will keep going after you die, and for everyone that is going to continue living afterwards. Like the world must be suitable.
So in some sense, then it's also about like, I guess in our modern sense, I guess like rein in the like how you would put it, rein in the like the more lower intellect sense of the logos gone wild, the boomer tower, that it kind of needs to be like rebalanced so that the environment is suitable for life in the future along these veins.
Yeah, and again, like connecting to, kind of relinquishing your own ego and thinking about the world beyond your time on this earth and passing it on for future generations. That is kind of like connecting to the cosmic self in a way, because you're going outside of time, in a kind of roundabout metaphorical way.
Yeah.
Yes. It reminds me also that what Genghis Khan said at one point. Like he said, it is one thing to conquer the world on a horseback, and a different thing to stand a city behind its walls. You have to hear the people, you have to collaborate, no matter how powerful you are. Like, you cannot know everything, and you cannot have good leverage without the collective work. You cannot have Da Vinci make a big art, like a big building, without the help of the other technicians and the other workers, and even the ones that do not understand the schematics exactly, and also the funding, and also the materials, and also the ones who transfer the materials.
Yeah, a lot of those conquerors never really turned out to have a good grip on actually ruling an empire. They just wanted to do the conquering.
To feel a bit the heavy metal ecstasy of the moment, and then let it
And
go.
then just hand it off to one of their generals that doesn't know how to rule either.
Yes, and it is interesting on this aspect that Genghis Khan wanted to become immortal. In the end, reading a lot of Taoist texts in the end of his life. I think his last words have to do with this. And he wanted to go in the Taoist immortal sense without walking the way.
That reminds me of the Tao Te Ching. The best governor governs least, and he employs the power of the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when a governor leaves the people alone, then they will find their own way.
I agree. And also big companies, if they don't have a sense for the people to keep innovating, to keep having individuals, you just have a management of in and taking. You won't be a pioneer. You just lose stocks to take in stocks, and this is all. But to not just be a manager and to be someone who is entrepreneur, you have also to take usage of this creative force, to not say productive, because it goes beyond mechanical production. to let them do their own thing.
Yeah, at the same time, when you reduce someone's job or personal responsibilities to simply an industrial line repetitive machine-like task, you are stripping innovation essentially, and stripping away humanity, and those jobs are more easily replaced by robots, which also isn't a good path either.
And this is a good point. In the same way, Aristotle says, and this is very advanced thing for his time, that there are activities that make people free and unfree. And free people should avoid activities that make you unfree. Activities like this are activities that does not involve the mind, or you do not have deliberation. You start to lose yourself a little by little, and you don't take initiative. You have to cultivate it yourself, he says.
I don't know. That this kind of makes me think of like, I guess the relationship between like the person, their like I guess essence of the soul and the material that they work with and have the connection to, and that it is this connection that is important in these things.
Yeah, to rewind a little bit, like if you're in a society or you're building a society where people are scorned for kind of standing upright and enacting that process of liberation in their own development, then it is gonna create that not free society, and people are gonna fall into the kind of zombie NPC mindset. So there has to be a little bit of struggle.
By the way, the Son of the Morning, this tarot card, has a fly as a symbol, maybe for Beelzebub, I don't know. But also I see the two goats, and he has a hammer-like thing on his hand. It is funny how they chose it.
Yeah, I think it's the Aries. You see the Aries logo beneath the ram. The fly, I believe that is a bee.
Oh, I see.
But yeah,
Yes,
that is the Aries and the ram and everything.
He looks like Thor also.
He's got the winged helmet.
Yes, and a hammer-like thing and two goats. But it is not a goat, maybe it is ram in this aspect. One time they made a reading for me, like I had a lot aspects of swords, like Knight of Swords and the Chariot also, and I had ones like the King of Swords and the Emperor. I didn't know about this very much. It was interesting.
I think the overabundance of swords, that is like the too much like male energy, isn't it? Imbalance of male over female energy is kind of the vibe that I got. I am not great with the tarot outside of the high arcana, though.
Yeah, but I guess in that sense, bringing it also back to like the cosmic man, it's about like finding this balance between these opposites. So between the swords and the cups, in some sense, and
the wand.
Well, and the wands and the pentacles. So it's like the different elements coming together in one figure, really.
The sword and the cup, that's kind of like some Arthurian imagery, isn't it? The quest for the cup.
Yes, the sword and the cup are in that symbolically too, you have the sword and the cup, but you also have the snake and the bird, and there's and the feminine and the masculine, and these all kinds of like different opposites that come together in the cosmic man. But there's the connection to like the sky as much as the connection to the more like primal, but also nature connection too, and the, very much like connection to the environment as well, and kind of through the connection to the cosmic man, and yeah, the relationship to the environment, and that we're a part of it.
Yeah, because he's everything.
Yeah, exactly. He's everything, and it brings to mind like the Tao Te Ching, with like to truly see the Tao, see it as it is, in a person, see it as a person, in a family, see it as a family, in the world, see it as the world, like, you know, and he mentions Lao Tzu mentions some other ones as well, but to give like an idea of this, and yeah, and it works kind of through everything in a way, even though we might not fully understand or comprehend like how the fuck this works, but it does seem to be the case. Same with like synchronicities that we talked about already. But yeah, I don't know if like people have like much more regarding the cosmic man to add, or if we should like wrap up the episode.
Oh, that's about it from me.
I had a good time. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, good talk as always.
Oh yeah,
It was a
likewise.
good one.
Yes.
All right, guys. Till next time.
Okay. Till next time.
Take care.
Yes. You too all.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.